Kazuki Kurusu and Rei Suwa are partners in crime in more ways than one. They live together as housemates and kill together as hitmen. But their lives are turned upside down in a way they could never imagine when they take in a 4-year-old girl looking for a father. A well-dressed man walks out of a private plane parked in a hangar, greeting the leader of a small group of people waiting for him. He asks one of his people to come forward, and a man walks up, opening a briefcase filled with expensive jewelry. The man being shown the contents of the case appears satisfied, and both parties head off into a separate location to continue the deal. They leave the airport in 3 cars, but unbeknownst to them, they are being followed by a man on a motorcycle. While on the freeway, the biker suddenly throws a spike strip at a car in the rear, causing it to flip over. He then rushes forward and starts shooting at the vehicle in the middle. After a tense shootout, he's able to hit one of the vehicles, disabling it. He tries to gain control of the front vehicle where the leaders both are, but they manage to shake him off. The car pulls in next to some warehouses by a dock, both men looking behind them to see if they've managed to escape the biker. As they turn around, they're shocked to see their assailant standing there waiting for them. They yell at the driver to run him over when the driver suddenly turns back, shooting one of them, revealing he'd been working with the biker all along. The accomplices drag the other into one of the warehouses and interrogate him, questioning how he's able to smuggle the jewelry. As the man pleads ignorance and begs for his life, the driver's phone starts ringing. He picks up the call, which turns out to be from a daycare informing him his daughter Miri is feeling unwell. The driver Kazuki starts reprimanding the biker Rei, berating him for not paying attention to Miri's condition. While the two are in mid-argument, the confused smuggler attempts to interrupt them, pissing them off in the process. Rei puts a bullet in the man, and the two run up to the daycare to pick up Miri. Several months earlier, the 2 hitmen were tasked with infiltrating a Christmas Eve party at a fancy hotel and assassinating a major human trafficker. Kazuki comes home from spending the night with a staff member from the hotel in order to clone her office ID, only to find a stray cat running around their apartment that Rei had picked up. Irritated, he tells Rei that people in their profession aren't in any position to be taking care of anyone. So, unless he's prepared to care for them from start to finish, he shouldn't bring them into their lives. Taking the cat back, he puts the kitten in a box and leaves after covering it with his scarf. The pair spend the day making preparations for the job, include buying Santa costumes and baking a cake to use as a cover for entering. Meanwhile, a small 4-year-old girl travels to the nearby area on a train, and after asking people for directions all day, ends up at the same hotel the night of the party. While Kazuki manages to talk his way into the guarded elevator leading up to the top floor, the little girl walks by. Upon setting the delicious cake Kazuki's hauling up, she gets into the elevator right as the doors close. With Kazuki frozen in disbelief by this sudden development, the little girl, whose name is Miri, exclaims the cake looks super tasty. Snapping out of shock, Kazuki smiles and offers her a taste. While she happily eats the cake, she asks Kazuki if he was here to fulfill her wish of seeing her father. She'd never seen her father before, but her mother told her he'd be here tonight. Kazuki tells her he'll grant her wish, so long as she listens to him. But she rushes out of the elevator as soon as it reaches the top floor. Rei, who'd been in hiding under the cart the whole time, shoots 2 confused guards outside the elevator and they both run after Miri. Rei manages to kill the remaining guards before bursting into the ballroom and causing a panic stampede. As gunfire erupts from both sides, Miri manages to slip away from Kazuki. Running up to the stage where their target is standing, she asks him if he's her father, and the man takes Miri hostage. To save her, Kazuki throws some nearby desserts at them before yelling at Miri to jump by claiming he was her father. The excited girl slips away from her captor, who's shot in the legs by Rei. Now with a clear shot at the target, Rei hits him with a headshot. Rei shoots the window out and rappels his way down the hotel while Kazuki sheds his costume and makes his way through the panicked crowd holding Miri and yelling for people to let his daughter through. The two escape successfully, fleeing home with Miri, who manages to fall asleep along the way. Back home, they go through her bag and to their shock, find she actually was the illegitimate child of the man they'd just taken out. The next morning, a sleepy Kazuki is woken by a loud banging on his bedroom door, only to find a very desperate Miri looking for a toilet. Once the emergency is taken care of, he starts making breakfast for everyone. Miri, who finds Kazuki cooking very interesting, insists on helping him, to which he firmly refuses. Not taking no for an answer, Miri starts causing trouble in her quest to crack some eggs, and the ensuing ruckus wakes Rei up. Sensing an opportunity, Kazuki foists Rei with the kid and tells her that Rei has a lot of video games that she can play. With her now wreaking havoc with Rei's video game library, Kazuki finishes making breakfast. As they all sit down to eat, they read the note Miri's mother wrote her father. In it, they're able to surmise Miri's father was cheating on his wife with Miri's mother, but abandoned her after she got pregnant. The letter reads that he should either raise her himself or pay all child support she needed over the past 4 years. With her dad now dead and no return address on the letter, the two seem stumped on what to do next. They distract her with a children's TV show and head out to meet their information broker and assignment supplier, Kitaru. While Kitaru isn't impressed by the flashy execution of their previous job, he gives them their payment along with a new, urgent contract. They take their payment, though Kazuki gives a chunk of it back to Kitaru to pass on to another individual, asking him if the previous target had a child. Kitaru agrees to look into it, and the pair return home only to find it in shambles. Soon after the two leave, another person summarily walks in whom Kitaru appears to be a bit wary of. The man, Ojino Ryu, tells Kitaru he'll be in town for a while, asking him to keep Ojino in mind for any future work. The two make preparations and finally head out to hit their target, a well-protected drug kingpin, but as they're about to leave the house, Miri makes a fuss about wanting to go with them. They try to distract her with snacks and TV, but this time their efforts fail, and Miri starts making a racket which attracts the attention of the neighbors. With no choice, they decide to bring her with them, which goes about as well as one would expect. Miri's tiny bladder wrecks their carefully thought-out plan, blowing their cover, turning the whole operation into a wild goose chase around the house, ending with Kazuki and Miri surrounded by a room full of thugs. Before things turn dire, they're rescued by Rei rushing onto the scene with some precision gunfire. Thanks to cover fire, they manage to get out of there alive, but fail to assassinate the target. Once back home, they receive a call from a very unimpressed Kitaru who tells the duo he'll have someone else clean up after them. He also informs them that he found the address of their previous target's mistress. The pair decide to take Miri back to the mother first thing the next morning, while Kitaru sends Ojino after the drug kingpin. That night, Ojino goes to the target's compound, kills all his guards, before shooting the target. The next morning at breakfast, Rei watches Kazuki play around with Miri and asks him if he's really going to send her back to her mom. A suddenly somber Kazuki replies he has no choice, since there isn't a place for a kid like her in their world. They later take Miri to her mother's place of work, a bar where she works as a singer. Miri and Rei wait in the car and watch, while Kazuki heads inside. Miri quickly gets bored, forcing Rei to take her to a nearby park. While there, he asks Miri why she calls Kazuki Papa. Miri tells him that Papa is the person who saves you when you're in trouble. Her words bring Rei back to a childhood memory when his father gave him a knife and forced him to fight with a dog, upon his failure to end its life, shooting the dog in the head. As he walked away, he chastised Rei for calling him Dad, telling him to only refer to him as Boss. Rei notices Miri had run off while he had been lost in his own thoughts. Running all over the place looking for her, he finally finds her talking to some police officers who try taking Miri to their station. Miri starts to scream, asking for her papa to come take her home. Rei, who'd been watching this from a distance, walks up to the officers, telling them to give Miri to him, as he is her papa. Meanwhile, in the bar, Kazuki tries to get Misaki to take Miri back. But a drunk Misaki claims she never wanted her in the first place and had to give up her hopes and dreams to take care of the kid. The two argue until Kazuki decides he's had enough. He pays for his drink, leaving the bar. Walking outside, he meets the excited Miri being carried around by Rei. Smiling, he tells Rei that they should get something to eat on their way home. The three head back to their new lives, and Miri continues to wreak absolute havoc around the house. Exhausted by her shenanigans and with no energy, the pair decide to enroll Miri in daycare to help alleviate some of the burden. Forging all the paperwork, botching many interviews at the same time, they manage to get Miri enrolled. To make a great first impression, they buy the most expensive things they can get their hands on. While the pair certainly make an impression on all the moms at the daycare, Miri in turn has a hard time making friends, as her clothes make her stand out. A couple days go by, and Kazuki finds himself picking up an increasingly dejected Miri from the daycare. After talking to her teacher Anna and finding the cause behind the problem, all three go on another shopping spree at an affordable retail chain store recommended by Anna. They buy everything they can get their hands on, and the next day Kazuki helps Miri smooth things over with other kids by playing soccer with them. That night, he picks up a cheerful Miri with a smile on his face, and back home surprises her with her very own fully decorated room. The situation at home begins to settle down, and Kazuki analyzes their finances. After spending all they did on Miri, finds that they've nearly run out of money. Both Kazuki and Rei go to Kitaro begging for work and are laden with many smaller assignments that they must complete within the week. While dividing up the work between them, they get a call from Miri's daycare informing them that Miri will have to stay home for a few days, because there's been a viral infection making the rounds among the kids. Working on the jobs while taking care of Miri proves to be too much for the two. After pulling 3 consecutive all-nighters, Kazuki decides to head off and ask Kitaro for help. Meanwhile, he leaves Rei in charge, but the exhausted Rei falls asleep while on watch. Miri, curious to see what kind of work Kazuki does, decides to follow after him. Surprisingly, she manages to keep up with him for most of the way, but gets distracted by a dog and loses him when he enters Kitaro's coffee shop. Waking up to find no one at home, Rei calls Kazuki to see if he'd taken Miri with him. This realization makes them both panic, and they rush out into the streets looking for her. Miri, meanwhile, ends up back near Kitaro's shop, who recognizes her from when he was researching her parents. Kazuki and Rei regroup at Kitaro's only to find Miri inside drinking fruit juice. Panicking because they had not told Kitaro Miri was living with them, Kazuki tries to pretend she's just some kid they're babysitting. Kitaro questions their progress on his jobs, and after hearing about their sleepless state, offers to look after Miri while the pair finish work. They complete all their assignments within a single day and come back to find Miri dozing off. They try to hurry out the store in case Miri sleep talks her way into blowing their cover, but Kitaro reveals he had known she was with them all along. He informs him he'd intended to take action if it appeared she was interfering with their work, but after spending the day with her and hearing how much she loved them, he began to understand why they'd taken her in. He reminds them they were the ones who killed her real father, and in their line of work, could themselves end up dead or put Miri in danger. Only if they understand these risks should they continue down this path. He leaves them with a final warning, that if Miri leads them to betray the organization, the consequences would be dire, pointing out that Rei would know this better than anyone.